Anyone who's been paying attention to Sony lately knows that they're famous for their brilliant business decisions. But in all seriousness, they've actually enjoyed a few notable successes in recent memory. Most recently, Astrobot, from their in-house developer, Team Asobi. Originally a part of JapanStudio, Team Asobi eventually became its own independent studio under PlayStation Studios. So with Team Asobi in the spotlight, I thought it'd be a good time to revisit their original parent company, the endlessly creative JapanStudio, and its most underappreciated gem, Gravity Rush. Known as Gravity Days in Japan, Gravity Rush originally launched on the PlayStation Vita in 2012, and later got a high-definition PS4 remaster in 2015, which included all previously released DLC. In 2017, a sequel fully developed for the PS4 was released, featuring a free DLC side story set right after the events of the first game. The game's world, story, and overall aesthetic mix elements of both manga and Western comics, especially drawing inspiration from the French artist Jean Giraud, famous for his signature Mobius aesthetic. The Gravity Rush games take place in a world of floating cities, surrounding a mysterious pillar. Players take on the role of Kat, a girl who seems to have fallen from the sky. With no memory of how she arrived at her current situation, she's thrust into action to save a young boy from a gravity storm. Kat quickly discovers that with the help of her cosmic kitty Dusty, she can shift the direction of gravity on herself, allowing her to fall in any direction she chooses. Armed with this newfound power, Kat sets out to help the citizens of Hexville by restoring the city sectors lost to the gravity storms and fighting the Nevi, strange and hostile creatures that spawn from them. Kat's deeds quickly catch the eye of Raven, another gravity shifter with mysterious motivations that initially put her at odds with Kat. These motivations are explored throughout the story of the first game and become a focal point in the free DLC of the second game, which takes place between the two main games and lets players control Raven. Another piece of media that bridges the gap between the two games is a beautifully animated two-part OVA, which I'll link in the description. The OVA depicts the events leading to Kat ending up lost and powerless at the start of the second game, ultimately being taken in by a group of exploited miners living on the outskirts of society. Gravity Rush 2 improves on nearly every aspect of the first game, answering many lingering questions and expanding the series' lore. The open world map is significantly expanded, featuring regions at various altitudes that highlight the separation between the different social classes. While the sectors in the first game had more uniform color schemes, the second is far more vibrant and visually appealing. In addition to the main map, players will explore surreal locations like the Delvul Trench Mine and the Rift Plains, mysterious realms on the other side of gravity storms inhabited by Nevi. Kat's abilities remain largely consistent between both games, with one notable enhancement in the sequel that I'll get to shortly. Starting with her non-gravitational controls, Kat's moveset includes a jump, a basic attack combo, and an evade. When she enters her gravity shifting state, Kat floats until she selects a direction to fall into. She can stay in this state until her gravity gauge depletes, which then automatically refills after a short cooldown. While in the gravity shifting state, some of her basic commands change slightly. The evade input remains the same, but the jump input increases her falling speed, and the attack input becomes a gravity kick. Using a stasis field, Kat can also levitate nearby objects to launch as projectiles. Additionally, she can perform gravity slides, allowing her to glide along surfaces at high speeds, a useful ability for fast traversal and certain challenges. Kat also has a special attack that becomes available once she's built up enough charge, adding extra power to her combat arsenal. Where Gravity Rush 2 makes improvements to these mechanics is in the addition of two additional shifting styles: Lunar Style, which makes Kat lighter and more agile, and Jupiter Style, which makes her heavier and more destructive. These styles can be toggled by swiping on the touchpad and affect all of Kat's controls, adding more variety to both combat and traversal. Each style also comes with its own special attack. While these special attacks were present in the first game, they weren't linked to specific styles, as this mechanic did not exist yet. Gravity Rush 2 also introduces a Berserker transformation for Kat, called Panther Mode. This temporary boost made a brief appearance in a cutscene in the first game, but becomes a fully realized mechanic in the sequel. In Panther Mode, Kat gains increased speed, agility, and strength, along with free movement across all axes and health regeneration. In both games, Cat's health, gravity gauge, and abilities can be upgraded by spending precious gems in the upgrade menu. Supplementing these upgrades in the sequel is the addition of Talismans, equipable items that offer a variety of enhancements from boosting specific attributes to attracting precious gems from greater distances. With such a massive selection of talismans and varied effects, players can fine-tune their playstyle to accommodate any mission or challenge. Every aspect of these games is seeping with style. Cat's animations are filled with fine details that make her feel like an actual agent actively experiencing her world, rather than just an avatar for the player to control. Her scarf and hair not only emphasize the use of her abilities and movement in combat, but also blow in the wind and dangle in the direction of the world's true gravity, even in quieter moments, reinforcing the sense of immersion. While both games feature animated cutscenes, more prominently in the second installment, much of the story is conveyed through comic book style panels. These are always so well drawn and expressive, and particularly effective in the first game, where their vibrant colors stood out against its more muted environments. They were also incredibly engaging to interact with, as they were made up of layered elements and could be manipulated like an actual comic book by tilting the controller. The game's music, especially during intense scenes, was vibrant and energetic, capturing both the adventurous and whimsical spirit of the game. Overall, the music was fantastic, but it does lead me to my first criticism. While these games featured really unique and fun music, some of the ambient town tracks, though pleasant in short bursts, could become a bit repetitive, especially when spending extended time collecting gems instead of progressing through the main story or side quests. Another small detail that can break immersion is when Cat shifts gravity in densely populated areas, causing nearby objects and even unsuspecting citizens to be propelled in the same direction as her, often sending them soaring into the ether. While I mostly found this funny, it does seem like an odd oversight considering how meticulously detailed the rest of the game is. Gravity Rush 2's talisman system, on the other hand, felt more tedious than engaging. These items were mainly earned by completing missions, challenges, or by mining, an activity that was super grindy. Talismans could be forged, merged, morphed, or recycled, which overall I found to be overly involved and resulted in my not caring enough to invest much time into it. This lack of interest in that mechanic was somewhat disappointing, given the necessity of talismans for getting high scores in the various challenges, and by proxy, some of the game's trophies. My final notable piece of criticism revolves around the Dusty tokens. This currency was earned through various online interactions and could be redeemed for talismans, costumes, gestures, and photo items. As I've mentioned in previous videos, I'm not a fan of content being locked behind online exclusive features. But what makes it even worse is that after the servers were shut down in 2018, setting aside the fact that Sony would later shut down JapanStudio, there was no patch to make Dusty tokens reasonably attainable through solo play. This has led to the unfortunate situation where some content is now completely unobtainable. I love having a variety of outfits, including some from crossover IPs, but missing 2 of the 3 Dusty token costumes really bothers me. Most outfits in Gravity Rush are unlocked through side quests. In the first game, side quests were only available through DLC, with each side story offering 2 quests and a new costume. In the sequel, side quests are baked into the base game and feature quirky stories that provide deeper insights into the world and characters. While some stories can feel a bit mundane, they don't usually linger on for too long and usually include some form of humor and lore. Any tedium in the side quests is easily overshadowed by the consistently high-quality narrative and gameplay of the main story, which I should note becomes even more compelling after the first time the credits roll. I've long held Gravity Rush as one of my top recommended titles, and even after revisiting the series with a more critical eye, I believe this position still holds merit. Criticisms aside, Gravity Rush offers a truly unique experience that I think everyone should play. The controls can be a bit disorienting at first, but once you get the hang of them, there's nothing quite like it. The game stands out in its creativity and remains one of the most original titles from some of the most inventive developers that have ever graced this realm. I can only hope that Sony can correct course and revive this series, especially on current-gen hardware. But what are your thoughts? Have you played Gravity Rush, and would you like to see it make a comeback? And if you haven't, has this video swayed you one way or the other? Let me know down in the comments. If you've enjoyed what you've witnessed here today, please consider leaving a like and subscribe, or maybe check out some of my other content. And as always, I hope you'll join me in the next one. I've been Punchin' Funk. Keep it funky, fellas.